Hello, Thanos up here, and today we are going to talk about the Panthera. So it was brought to my attention that a lot of people don't really understand how the secondary fire sort of works. So today I'm going to explain about that along with a hidden mechanic with this class of weapon. Now the reason why I say this class of weapon as if there is a lot of weapon like this is simply because the secondary fire is indeed just a beam weapon or a discharge weapon, or you could even call it a continuous weapon. Now we have talked about continuous weapon before in the past in a older video, but for some reason over there I sound like I'm really sleepy or just really high, so I'm gonna give you a quick summary. However, if you are interested in the calculations and stuff like that, you're gonna have to check out that video instead. Based on the question asked, I'll be talking about multi-shot, fire rate, and also punch through, and basically how it performs on a beam weapon, or in this case the Panthera's secondary fire. So we're going to start off with split chamber, which is multi-shot at 90%, and what you realize is that it increases the damage but not the status per second. Now multi-shot usually increases status chance as well for most weapons, simply because it fires an additional shot. But in this case it doesn't, although sometimes some beam weapons shows visually like there is more than one beam being projected, but I really don't think that's the case, considering that the tick amount is still the same. It's not like there is more ticks happening. When it comes to fire rate, things seems to be a little bit different. So for example, if we put on a shred, let's say we put on a shred and also a speed trigger, what you notice or displayed here is that there is a higher status per second. Now in most weapons, like projectile weapons, it does not actually show you an increment of status chance. However, that increment is there considering that you are firing more bullets, so each bullet has that same status chance, therefore you actually have a higher rate of proccing. But that is not displayed. However, the beam weapons, they actually show you the increment when you increase your fire rate. The whole reason behind this is because even though you increase your fire rate on a beam weapon, the tick per second still shows exactly the same timing. You do not actually get a bunch of numbers a lot quicker, you just get more or larger amount of numbers. That actually means that your damage also increases, although it does not show here. For punch through, it does pretty much what you think it will do. It goes through the enemy and hit the enemy behind it. If your punch through is large enough, it will continue to travel until it reaches its range limit. Since it could hit multiple enemies at the same time, this also means that you could potentially proc status on many enemies at the same time. The thing you want to look out for when playing with high punch through weapons is your accuracy. Considering that the weapon and also Warframe is at a side of the screen and your reticle is at the center, the projectile or beam in this case will travel from your Warframe to the center of the reticle, and it will continue to travel at an angle, and it could miss potential enemies behind, considering that that angle is determined on the first enemy or object it encountered. More on that in a different video on accuracy. Links will be at the description below. To me, what's unique about the Panthera is the fact that it has physical damage type as its secondary fire, and not many beam weapons has that. Most beam weapons are dealing elemental damage, and in this case the Panthera actually does primarily slash damage, which means more slash procs, and in general slash procs are really good. Another great thing about the Panthera is the fact that its secondary fire has a really short range, so things like heavy caliber doesn't really affect it at all. Did you know you could actually see your spinning blade by jumping? Now the reason why is because when you jump, you actually angle your weapon facing to the left, and since the laser, it will still hit the retina, it kind of angles the entire laser line such that you could actually see it as if you are seeing it from the side. Okay, now let's talk about that hidden mechanic that I told you guys about at the beginning of this video. So apparently if you have a magnetized bubble in front of you, no matter how far it is, you could still charge it up with a beam weapon. And I believe this range is infinite. Now there's no real way of testing this, considering that the simulacrum is limited in size. However, I did try standing all the way, the furthest away that I could, and it still works. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. Over here you can see some enemies, 145 ancient healers, and I'm going to use my magnetized bubble followed by my secondary fire. And you could know that there's no way that blade thing, the beam, could actually reach all the way to the bubble, considering that it's really far away, but yet it is still charging up that bubble. Okay, if you need to know more about magnetized bubble, the calculation, the damage and stuff like that, I actually have a separate video, and I'll put the link at the description below. Meanwhile, I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So you can actually see the tick amount of the magnetized bubble ranking up, and the more tick amount, it means the more build up of the field damage, and that will contribute to the final blast damage. So you'll also realize that the damage that I'm doing is actually not the damage from your beam, as in it's not from this thing. This thing does not actually touch the bubble, so it does not do any damage to a single target, because like let's say if you're shooting a projectile, that projectile goes into the bubble and hits an enemy, and that will contribute a certain damage, and then the bubble will record the damage and then does the magnetized tick damage, right? So that is how it sort of works. Now this one, it records damage and causes the magnetized bubble to get more damage, but then it does not have the initial damage from your weapon. So this is the interesting part. It only charges up the bubble and nothing else. So again, you can see the tick gradually increasing in numbers, as in damage numbers, and then finally when time comes, it will just explode and do insane amount of damage. Now I'm gonna stand right over here. I believe this is probably like the furthest I could go away from those enemies, so I'm gonna test it from all the way over here. Okay, so magnetized bubble, and again you can see it working. It's charging up that bubble, and it's not only just the Panthera. I could switch over to something else. As long as it's a beam weapon, it works despite the range. At this range, you can actually see what's dealing the damage. It looks like a blue beam. So here we go. You see it? It came from the outer ring of the globe, and it goes in straight to the middle. It's like a blue light. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on. I believe you guys are familiar with that whole beam weapon and magnetized bubble bug. So a long time ago on PC, if you have a beam weapon and you shoot into a magnetized bubble, it really charges it up. They call it a supercharge, and it does an insane amount of damage. Now that has been fixed. However, about a month ago, I remember seeing a video from Life of Rio saying that that still exists, but he's playing in console. So it might still work in console, I'm not really sure. Anyway, what I believe is happening is that maybe the people that actually fixed that bug did not know of a way to not make the laser damage that it does on enemies to not supercharge the magnetized bubble. So what they did was, instead they make it such that the laser damage that you do on enemy no longer charge the bubble at all, and instead they implemented an extra damage that does only charge the magnetized bubble and does nothing else. Okay, so it only charges the bubble. So if you were to use a, I don't know, let's say a Thomas, you know what, I could just show you right now. Bear with me just a second, because the Thomas actually fires out a yellow beam, so it might be more obvious than for me to use something like the Gamma Core. Okay, so let me just summon an enemy. Yeah, any enemy's fine. Okay, take out my Thomas. Okay, my Thomas is equipped. So yeah, yay, a new bug found. If you jump and switch weapon, this might happen. Okay, so Magnetize and Thomas. Now do you see it? That do you see the blue light? Oh god, this is so funny. Oh great, it's not reloading because I'm not holding the weapon. I don't know what's going on. So I believe they did not specify a range for that blue light attack thing. That's why you could charge up a magnetized bubble from a really far away distance. Now let's recap for a second. So your beam weapon's damage no longer charges up the magnetized bubble. Instead, there is this weird blue light that comes out of it, and that will charge up the magnetized bubble. So in this case, this means that that blue light is actually important, because the damage of that blue light will determine the tick damage of the magnetized bubble and also the explosion damage of the magnetized bubble. So after a lot of testing, turns out that mysterious blue light does not take into account a lot of your mods, and those are the mods that a lot of people would usually use. So for example, fire rate mods. So as we discussed before, if you have fire rate mods on a beam weapon, it actually bumps up your damage. So for example, if you could find a way to increase this fire rate from a 1 to a 2, this pretty much means that you're doing twice as much damage as you did before. But for the blue light, it does not take into consideration. So with or without fire rate mods, it's not going to increase the tick damage, and therefore it's not going to increase the explosion damage as well. Now this is actually really bad, because if you do not know about this, you are not only wasting slots on your Panthera, but you are also depleting your ammo and reloading more often, and that's gonna hurt your DPS. Next is multi-shot. Now split chamber is something that you almost must have if you want to increase your damage on your weapon, but apparently if you're talking about damage on the tick of the Magnetize, split chamber multi-shot is not going to help you. It's not going to increase that damage, so you might want to consider, putting away and save up that 15 capacity for something else. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm not saying not to use it, I'm just saying that it doesn't help the magnetized bubbles, so it's really up to you. I'm just letting you know. The other two things that doesn't contribute to the blue light thing that I've tested is critical and also faction mod. So it really doesn't matter what enemy is inside. If it's a Grenier, you put on Bane Grenier, it's not going to increase the damage, considering, I guess, because that blue light does not actually attack or touch any enemies, it just goes straight right in and charge up the magnetized bubble. So I guess if you really want to optimize your build for a magnetized bubble, you just really want to increase things like your damage multipliers and also whatever elements or physical damage. Yeah, so you can put things like this. I don't know, I don't really have a lot of capacity on this build, as in on my Panthera, so I'll probably go with that and maybe 2 of these, like that. Bam. Okay, of course it could be further increased. If you have more capacity, you can have the all 4 of the 90% elemental damage mods on instead, or if you have this prime cryo round, and that's gonna give you even more damage. Another thing to note about the Panthera is that for normal beam weapons, the moment you start firing, it consumes ammunition. However, that is not the case for the Panthera. As long as you do not hit an enemy, you can hit items or whatever, it does not count as a hit or something, and it does not reduce your ammunition. So this means that you could actually kill enemies with this method without spending a single amount of ammunition. So yeah, think about that. Like, so many synergies could work. You could actually camp at a place, all you need is energy, and you can go on for a really long time like this. The reason why I think that the whole blue light mechanic thing is for Magnetized bug is because I've tried replicating this, but trying to pull off that blue light damage on other Warframes and their abilities, and nothing seems to work. I've tried with Nova's Antimatter, I've tried with Nyx's Absorb, I've tried Hydroid's Undertow, and it doesn't work. It seems like it's exclusively for Magnetize, and since Magnetize is the only skill that was reported with that bug. Alright, that's pretty much it for this video. Special thanks to those people on Discord that helped with the research. It's really cool that I could just call on you and you'll pop out. That really helped. And I just want to update you guys with my current situation. So you guys knew that I was having a little bit of a financial crisis, so I took up a bunch of part-time jobs and I'm still working on it. It should stabilize, but even when that happens, I'm still working, so I don't have a lot of time. This is the reason why my video uploads has been slowing down. It used to be 3-4 videos per week, and now it's only once per week. And so I've decided on making really small clips, like video clips, supposedly entertaining, I don't know, and it's really just my way of keeping in touch with you guys, because I feel like I've been losing touch, like just posting one video per week, seeing you guys at the comments once a week. It's just like, it's not enough for me. So yeah, I've been working on small clips. It's only a few seconds long, and hope you guys like it. And that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and bye bye.